So I wanted to create a video for people who have come to art a little later in life, so a little bit like me. And I was going to sort of create a video and do all the sorts of different bits and pieces on it and everything. And then I thought, you know what better way to talk about how you can make things work, and how you can make a living or make a little bit extra money from your art. What better way than to talk you through exactly what happened to me and how I've done it. So that's what I thought I would do. So I thought, instead of face to camera and you seeing my lovely face, I thought I'd just draw and chat, and just sort of talk to you really about how I kind of stumbled across art, and I'm now making a living from it. Sort of 2016, that's when I discovered coloured pencils. So I hadn't really done any art or anything in those sort of almost 30 years from leaving college. I'd been in kind of the art industry and been creative, but not really drawing or anything like that. So I got some coloured pencils for Christmas in 2015. And that's kind of where it all started. So the colouring side of things, I really got into, and I've got loads of colouring books, and I just became obsessed with my colouring. Really loved it. And then a friend asked me if I would draw her dog, and that was probably around, I don't know, May time 2016, something like that. She asked me if I'd draw her dog, which I did. I was a bit scared, but I did. Went up on YouTube, and then not on YouTube, on Facebook, and then people started to ask me, if I draw their animals as well, just friends on Facebook and everything, and that's where it kind of started. And very quickly, I progressed very quickly. And very quickly I got quite a few commissions, over time. So much so that sort of in the October time in the 2016, bearing in mind I'd only been drawing since the sort of May time, that it was then that I was thinking I'm going to go full time as an artist. Now I'm quite I'm a very positive person, but I'm also a planner. Not an organised planner, so I'm not somebody who creates the most amazing plans, really organised and sticks to everything. That's not me. But I have a really good idea in my head, and once I put something down onto paper, then it kind of happens. I do commit to any goals and plans and everything that I make. So, having decided that I was going to go full time, that's when I started to create this plan, and to make sure that I could actually do it if it that it was feasible, and create almost like a strategy. So it was I'm not going to say it was easy, because it wasn't, but I had worked in an industry where marketing was kind of what we did. Working with people was what we did, so it wasn't, I'm quite a sort of an outgoing sort of person as well, so all of that type of stuff really helped. I'd run the studio for Aviva, so I knew all about budgeting, I knew all about forecasting, all of that type of stuff I was kind of aware of, and knew what to do and how to do it. So that all kind of stood me in good stead, really, for starting my own business and hoping to become successful. So I created my plan. Obviously, I was married, I got 3 children, got a house, got a mortgage that we need to pay for, all of that type of stuff. You really need to think carefully. I am a little bit of an activist, in that I'm like, right, let's do this. So I'm careful, and I did think through, and I did work it out, and I was, yeah, we can do it. But the whole point was, it was like, well, if I don't do it now, I don't think I ever will. and I'd really like to be a full-time artist, and I think I can make it. Or not that I think I can make it successful. I know that if I put all of the right things in place, then I will make it successful. So I created a plan. And that plan, I think, was the best thing I could have ever done. It was dead simple, dead simple plan. It was just an A3 piece of paper. It had my name in the middle, and then branched off that, it was everything that I wanted to do. So it was commission work, it was galleries, it was art fairs, it was workshops, it was online teaching, it was every single thing that I could think about that I possibly could do or wanted to do. The teaching side of things was a definite, because that's what I had been doing in my previous job. I'd been teaching leadership and management, I'd been coaching, I'd been teaching coaching, all of that type of stuff was really, really important for me. So, you know, that was kind of a no-brainer, really. That was going to happen at some point. But the commission work was what I decided I wanted to concentrate on the first. So I made my plan, made myself an 18-month forecast, you know, saying, right, this is how many commissions I'm going to get each month. This is how I'm going to get them. You know, so it could be word of mouth, it could be social media. I set myself an advertising budget, you know, so I could actually pay for some targeted advertising in Facebook, which worked really, really well, I have to say. I kind of planned everything out. I've got everything organised in my head, and decided what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And it helped that I had 3 months worth of commissions that were coming in, and were still coming in. Obviously, my pricing was something that I really had to think about, because when I first started doing commissions for people, I was charging something like £40. And then I upped it to £80 for an A4, and I think it was 110 for an A3. But realistically, if I was going to do this as a full-time job, then I needed to think about a pricing structure that would enable me to be able to pay for my mortgage. You know, that was really, really important. So when I went full-time on the 1st of January 2017, I'd got a pricing structure that was better. You know, it was obviously a higher price, with a goal price in mind, you know, to keep on upping my art, so that eventually I would be earning enough from my commissions, you know, to be able to make a good living. And I think my starting price on the 1st of January 2017 was £200, and that was for my smallest piece, which I think it was 11 by 15. And off I went. And yeah, it was a bit scary. I mean, I never, if I'm going to do something, I never have any doubts that it's not going to work. I think it's really, really important to keep a positive frame of mind. You know, not to be big-headed or anything like that, but you've got to be confident that you're going to be able to do this, because if you show anybody any sort of weakness, or not weakness, but you know, if you don't seem confident when you're dealing with people, then they're not going to feel confident in asking you to, you know, draw their pet, or they're not going to feel confident in you know, handing over £200 for a drawing. But if you are confident in your own abilities, and that comes over in a nice, sort of quiet, gentle way, then people are going to be with you. They're going to join you. They're going to want whatever it is that you've got, because you know you're the expert. So you know, and I have got that confidence, and sometimes it's, you know, it's to my detriment, but most of the time it works quite well. And my commission books just kept growing. And I did a webinar course with a Anne Kohlberg. So Anne Kohlberg owns the Colour magazine in America. She is a portrait artist, very good portrait artist. And she runs I don't know whether she still runs it, but she did back then, a program called Shine. And this program was, I think it was 3 webinars. It cost me something like £200 when it was converted from dollars. And this webinar, basically, Anne shared with whoever was participating all of her little gems for building a portrait business. Now, clearly, I'd already got a portrait business and it was up and running, and it was doing quite well. But just doing this course really, really brought it home how important your pricing structure was, and how important it was to to get your pricing correct. And what she suggested, and what I took on board and did, and was successful in doing, was that every time you have commission books that are full for 2 months, now your full might be 1 commission, your full might be 12 commissions. Everybody's is going to be slightly different. But you've got your full commission books for 2 months, you then up your prices. And you keep upping your prices every time you have 2 months full commission books. And so that's what I did. I had a goal amount in my head, a goal amount that when I first started drawing, or when I first started thinking about, the fact that I was going to be doing commission work, I had a goal amount in my head, that I eventually wanted my prices to be, and that was £500. So I kept on upping and upping my prices as I got more people on my wait list. I just kept upping my prices until I think it was last year I got to the 500 mark for a 10 by 12 portrait. I passed that mark now. I'm now on to 575 for a 10 by 12 portrait. But I had a goal in my head that I was working towards, which I think is incredibly important. I think having a goal price was really important. Working out how to get to your goal price, or working out how much to charge, that's quite a personal thing. For me, I worked it out as to what I needed to be able to pay for my mortgage. If I needed to, obviously I had a husband, who had a wage, so that wasn't so bad. And he did say that he would support me, so, but what did I need to earn to be able to cover my mortgage? And that's what I based my prices on, and it worked out really successfully for me. It worked out, I based my prices on how much I needed each month. And then that's what I charged, and it worked really quite well. Other people might decide that they want to charge by the hour, or by the per inch, anything like that. It's quite personal, so there's no set formula really. It's just kind of up to you and what works for you. So that's what I did. Kept up in my prices, and it's quite scary, because you think, oh gosh, I've been charging £40 for a portrait. Nobody on earth is going to want to buy a portrait from me for £200. But what we forget is that we've got all sorts of different people who are buying our portraits, and they come from completely different backgrounds. They're a totally different demographic, totally different audience. So somebody who would pay £40 definitely will not pay £500 for a portrait, £200 for a portrait, But somebody who would pay £200 for a portrait would never, in a month of Sundays, pay £40 for a portrait, because they would consider it as being cheap. So it's a completely different demographic, totally different audience. And that's what you have to remember when you're moving from one pricing band to another, that you're actually starting to target different people with different salaries and different wants and needs. And actually, I actually found that as soon as I started to really bump up my prices, I got more commissions from them. It's just how it happened. And the other thing as well is that people tend to, if you've got a few different prices, people will tend to leave the bottom price and go for the one just above it. If there's not a huge amount of difference in the price, then people will go for the slightly larger one, which is, good for me because I prefer drawing larger portraits. The pricing was key, getting your pricing right, because if you're going to make a living from something, you need to be making more than 2p an hour. And the problem is that a lot of artists really undersell themselves, I think, because they are terrified that if they put their prices up too much, they are going to lose their clients. And they're right, they will lose their clients, but they will gain different ones who will pay more. So that's a really, really important thing to consider and to remember, and to kind of reflect on a little bit as well, when you're thinking about starting your business and your pricing and everything like that. The other side of things that, clearly I started in 2017. My portrait business is very good, still is very good. I close my commission books now. I open them maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, and I tend to be booked up. I book a year up in about a day. Now, that's not me bragging and being big-headed. Some of you might think it is, but it's not. Basically, I have built myself a list. So I have I've got an email list of people who want to subscribe and want to hear when my commission books are open. As soon as I open my books, they get an email, and as soon as they get an email, they contact me and they book a portrait. I then end up booking a whole year, probably in around a day, with all of the emails that come through. And I've found that is a really, really good way of managing my commission business side of the business. Now, it's not something you can do right from the beginning. You do have to put the work in, and you do have to, build up your business and become seen and become known. People need to know that you're out there and you're doing all of this work. And it starts with friends and family, and then it goes on from there. Now, one of the things that people really, really struggle with is the marketing side of stuff. And yes, I've been really lucky, in that I've kind of worked in that industry. I kind of know, how to put myself out there. It's about quality work, but it's also about being confident, and it's also about knowing how to market yourself. And many, many people, especially those of us who have kind of, we've had a career, we're maybe sort of, mid-30s upwards. You might have retired, you might be in your sort of 50s, 60s, you might have retired and decided you want to do a little bit of extra work, and the marketing side of things might be very, very new to you. You might never have done anything like that before. And it is quite scary, because it's like, well, how do I market? Do I take a course? Do I, what do I do? And then as soon as you start to read things, you've got to use your social media, and you've got to work with algorithms, and you've got to work with insights, and you've got to do this. And it's like, oh my, there's no way I can do this. And that will be your first instinct. I can't do this. There's no way. I have no idea what to do. I don't know how to use the social media platforms. I've got no idea. Right, that little idea, gone. Let's try something else. And actually, it's that's your first stumbling block. Is the real worry about how you're going to be able to do something and how you're going to be able to make it work. Not having a marketing degree is not going to scupper your chances at all. You don't need a marketing degree. You don't need to know really very much about marketing. All you need to do is to be yourself. To be yourself and to put your work out there. And that's what people find a bit tricky, is to kind of, people sort of seem to think that they need this great big marketing strategy. They need to know the ins and outs of how to market, all of that type of stuff. And you just don't. You don't. all you need to do is be yourself. And the more you can be yourself, the more comfortable you'll feel, and the more able you will feel in getting your work out. So that's the first thing that you need to kind of work on and realise is, how do you, who you are, who are you, and how are you going to put your work out? So forget about the word marketing, because that's just scary. And start thinking about who you are, what's your voice, what's your personality. Your personality must come into it, because if you want people to follow you, to buy your work, that type of stuff, they need to like you as a person as well. Art is something that's bought from the heart. It's not bought from the head. It's not half of the time art isn't a very rational purchase. We don't need it, but we really do need it. If you see something that really, really sings to you, you can't stop thinking about it. It's like, oh, I really need that. And then your head starts to tell you, oh no, well, you've got to be rational. You can't, blah, 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 blah. But it's a head purchase, but it will be something, somebody will see one of your pieces, something about that piece will resonate with them, and it will be on their mind then that they have to have one of your pieces. They have to have their dog drawn, or, whatever. So it's up to you to keep putting your work in front of everybody, to make sure that at one point they then go, do you know what, I'm going to have one. I've got to have it. That's what I'm doing. And it's about getting your work out there. That is the struggle. What I did was I started my Facebook page, I think in the September of the 2016. And I did start an Instagram page around the same time, but I didn't really use Instagram until sort of 2017-ish. I just didn't get Instagram at all. I didn't understand it. I understood Facebook because I've been using it, but Instagram was like, what is this? This is just weird. I don't know what to do with it. So I didn't kind of put much energy or effort into it. And I just built my Facebook page up. Like I say, I ran some targeted adverts, which really helped get my work seen, really helped get my followers up. And I just shared my work on my Facebook page. I shared it with my friends, and any of the groups that I was in, I shared it in there. And that really, really helped me pick up quite a few commissions, is sharing in the groups. And Facebook is quite strict as to, what you can and can't do. And all of the different groups in Facebook, so sharing in horsey groups, doggy groups, that type of thing, but they've all got their own rules, and you've got to stick by the rules. Because otherwise you'd just be turfed out. But it's, the sharing in the groups was a really, really big hit for me, and that managed to get me, a fair few commissions. And then as soon as I started to get more, more followers, then I'd get word of mouth. And my commission books, just flourished really. And really took off. But it was the sharing in the groups that was the big hit, and still is. And I would suggest that if you're thinking about going full time with your art, then have a look at some of the groups and have a look at some of the art that people share in the groups, and you'll see that many animal portrait artists share in the groups very successfully, and are doing really, really well with their commission books. So that's something that worked really well for me. I had all sorts of different things on my plan. One of them was art fairs. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do art fairs. I'm going to go sell, originals and prints and all of this type of stuff. I did one art fair, and I've never done another. It wasn't that I didn't like it. It's just, it cost me an awful lot. It was sort of 4 days out setting up, being there for a couple of days, coming home, getting everything else sorted out, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't get me anything, and I didn't really enjoy it, I have to say. I didn't get a kick out of it. So I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to put any more effort into art fairs. They work for some people, they didn't work for me. So I think if I'd really wanted to, and I'd enjoyed it, and I could have put more effort in, spent all of my energy doing that, and I'd probably be quite successful. But because I didn't enjoy it, I was just like, yeah, no, not going to do this. Let's try something else. The gallery side of things, I think everybody wants their work in galleries. I think it's kudos. It's that never ended up really happening, and I never really pursued it because again I was too busy with my commission stuff, and it just kind of fizzled out really. And it's not now something that I want to go down. It was there, but it's not something I want to pursue, because what happened with me was that the other things on my list were the commissions, were the teaching, the workshops, and the online teaching. So I didn't actually run my first workshop until the end of 2018, and I didn't. Well, I'd said that I wanted to do an online teaching channel. And that probably it was going to be 2020, 2021, something like that. Actually, it came much earlier, and it was 2019. It was February 2019 that I started my Patreon channel. But the reason I started my Patreon channel was because people were asking me, please, will you start a Patreon? And I was like, I'm not quite sure. It's a big commitment. And anybody out there who has Patreon on their list and who is thinking about starting a Patreon, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, and I love my patrons, and I really enjoy doing all of the tutorials and all of that type of stuff. But it is a massive, massive, massive commitment. It's a huge commitment. People are paying you to create videos, whatever. So they have to be good. The content has to be good, the sound has to be good, the quality has to be good. And if you get anything that is slightly not as good as you'd hoped it was, which, let's face it, happens, you can't get everything right, and it's all a learning curve. And as lovely as people are, you will still get people, and rightly so, because they're paying for the service. You'll still get people, having a bit of a moan or a complaint or whatever about the sound quality, and they're absolutely right in doing that. But it can be quite stressful. Actually, it is quite stressful. And I'm not a stressy person at all. But the other thing with Patreon as well, and mine has grown really, really well, and I'm so glad I did it, and I love the community that's there. It's a fabulous group of people, and I absolutely love sharing all of my stuff with them. But it's a full-time job on its own. Engaging with everybody, making sure you're keeping up with questions, making sure that you're giving them what they want, creating, all of the different tutorials, all of that type of stuff. So it's a really lovely thing to do, but don't go into it thinking, you're just going to be able to put a video up every month and that be it, because that's not kind of how it works. Well, you can do that, but people will expect more. And the other side of things as well is I find really, really stressful, even though I'm not a stressful person, but I do get a bit, nobody's tied in, so there's no contract with Patreon, so people are there and they support you, and it's fantastic. But people then go, people leave, and we all know that that's what people do. If we join like Disney Plus or Netflix or something like that, we just go, I don't want to do this anymore, so we just unsubscribe. Well, that's what happens with Patreon, and you work really, really hard to keep all of your patrons happy and all of that type of stuff. And then at the end of the month, when you see them all leaving, they don't all leave. That's not true. They don't all leave. But, you know, even when I think it's 2%, that's generally what Patreon says. 2% of your subscribers will leave each month. And it's kind of soul destroying, to be honest. You know, you put all of this work in, and then 2% of all of, you know, what you've been doing are leaving. And it's just like, you know, and I've learned at the end of each month now, you know, that people are going to go. I accept that people are going to go. It's not, I don't take it personally, you know, and I just need to think of ways of keeping people, of giving them better, you know, better videos, better content, all of that type of stuff. So it's keeping me on my toes, which is good. You know, you can't get complacent or anything like that. But, you know, if you are thinking of trying to do that side of things, the Patreon side of things, you know, you're very welcome to get in touch. I will share everything I know about, you know, what's happened with me and how I've done stuff. You know, I'm really happy to do that. And I've done that with a few artists. But you know, just don't go into it, you know, don't go into it thinking that it's going to be easy, because it's not. It's good, it's fun, and you can be very successful, you know, but it takes a lot of hard work, and it can be a little bit stressful, you know, but it's definitely worth it. It's worth the stress. You know, and meeting all of the different people, and you do get, the majority of your followers are loyal, you know, which is lovely, you know, and I mean, Patreon now is kind of takes up the majority of my time. You know, I still do commission work, but I'm taking on fewer commissions each month now, just because I really enjoy the teaching side of stuff. I like the interaction with people. And it's quite nice to be able to draw sort of original pieces as well. But I really like to share my knowledge, you know, and I think that's my voice. That's what I have found has worked really, really well for me in marketing myself, is the helpful side of stuff. So it's really important, you know, to make a plan, to you know, if you want to do something, then you know, do it. But always go in with all of the information. You know, it's and the other thing as well about Patreon is, you know, it's good to have you know, a big following. If you haven't got a YouTube channel or anything like that, it's good to get one up and running before starting, because then you've already got people who kind of know what to expect from you. You know, sort of putting all of that work in beforehand is quite important. But it's good. The workshops, I love the workshops. I'm doing more online now because obviously because we're all locked down at the moment. But the workshops I really, really enjoy, because you get to meet people. You know, you get to sort of work with people who have got different styles to you. I find really interesting with the workshops that you know, all of the different sorts of characters you've got to be able to teach in all sorts of different ways to be able to get, you know, be able to get your message through to the different people, different personalities and everything, and I really like that. But you know, starting that quite slowly. Again, for me, you know, my first workshop was 2018. I planned it, you know, quite well, I guess. But also I planned it so that we could just kind of go off on a tangent if we needed to. So there's all sorts of things, you know, that you can do, that you can, you know, you can kind of move into, you know, other than just doing the commission side of stuff. But I guess I think the biggest stumbling block for maybe somebody of my age is time. You know, so somebody my age is probably got a family, they've got commitments of a mortgage, something like that. So time is a big factor. And before I started working full time as an artist, I had a full time job, and 3 children, husband, all of that, and it was a case of finding the time. It really was a case of finding time to be able to do what I was going to be doing, and it ended up that I was working into the night, which it's not ideal, but I've always worked long hours anyway, so it wasn't really something that was a problem. But the time, and the other thing as well is, if you are married, you've got a partner, whatever, just making sure that your other half, understands how important it is that with what you're doing, because if you can work together, and you can sort of spread things out, looking after the children, all of that type of stuff, that really is helpful. That really is useful. Unfortunately for me, when I went full time in the January, my husband left me in the July. So that was a little bit scary, because then I'd gone from sort of having 3 children and 2 incomes coming in, to just me with my 6-month-old, 7-month-old art business working on my own, thinking, oh my God, how is this going to happen? And I was left with all of the children as well. So, but we got through it, and I have to say it's a much better place now, and it worked. But it's when you start these things, you can't plan for everything that happens. It's just impossible. You can't. But what you've got to do is you've just got to get through it. And luckily I had a very supportive family, and we did it, and it was fine, and I'm quite a positive person, but there were times where I was just like, I'm not gonna do this. But it didn't last very long. So that's the other thing. You never know what's around the corner, and that's another reason for just doing it. It's a reason that I do just go, I don't know what's going to happen. So just do it. It's not if you leave things, then you might never do it. So my motto is just give it a go, and what's the worst that can happen? If this doesn't work out, then I'll go get a job. It's as simple as that. I know it's not as simple as that, but that was how it kind of worked for me. And then the social media side of stuff I think is a big worry for people, especially if you're not used to social media and you don't know how it works. I think the best thing to do is to figure out how you learn the best. So whether you're sort of like a visual person, an audible person, whether you like to hear things, all of that type of stuff. And if you prefer to read things, to research things, get yourself a book, get yourself an up-to-date book on social media. There are some really, really good ones around. If you're more of a sort of, you want to actually be able to see things in action, get yourself on YouTube. There's some great videos on YouTube about how to use social media. For me, social media is all about just being present. It's about being yourself. So I'm very big on values and value set, and my values are all around sharing, kindness, that type of thing. So all of my social media posts are around that, because that's what comes naturally to me. So I share a lot of information. I help a lot of people, and that's kind of what works for me. You have to find who you are and what your values are, because what you want to happen is, and what will happen is, that as long as you are true to yourself and you are being who you genuinely are, then you will find like-minded people who will come and follow you, because they'll be naturally attracted. So that's why I find I set up a Facebook page, a Facebook group last July, for sort of like coloured pencil animal artists, and it's very quickly becoming just the most amazing place to be, full of kind people, full of people who want to share their information, so basically people like me, so like attracts like. So if you're wanting to engage with people, social media wants you to engage, and the best way to engage with people is to actually have conversations with them. And if you like the person that you're having a conversation with, you're more likely to want to go back and have more conversations with them. And to have a nice conversation with somebody, you have to have something in common. There has to be something there that kind of attracts you to them. And this is what I mean about shared values. So people are going to have similar values to you. So kindness, personality, trust, all of that type of stuff. You want to be really putting your personality out there. And if you want to go and look at an account that is growing brilliantly and whose the artist is really, really just being himself, then go and have a look at Alex Fleming. Okay, that's Alex, Alex, and it's Fleming with one M. He's an amazing artist, brilliant, but he has utilised his social media so that he is really, really being himself. So it's easy for him to post because he doesn't have to try and be something he's not. So it's easy for him to post. It's easy for him to write the content because it's all there already, because that's who he is. And he is attracting followers who really love his personality and his style, and who are probably quite similar to him. He's a little bit quirky, but he writes the most fantastic content. So I would strongly recommend you go and have a look at his Instagram. And that will show you what really, really good engagement is. Good engagement in that he's being himself, he's being him, that's his marketing, is being Alex Fleming. You're welcome to go and have a look at my Instagram. I had no idea how to use Instagram when I first started it. Absolutely no idea. I didn't get it. I was like, what are you supposed to do? I have no idea. And I think I started using it a little bit more in sort of like early 2017. I started to actually understand what I was supposed to be doing. And I now absolutely love Instagram. And my following has grown. I mean, it's not a huge account, but it's sort of like, 41,000, something like that. And it's grown. And the reason it's grown is because I'm me on it. You don't get to see my sort of humorous side because I keep that for my live streams. But what you do get is you get all of my sharing. So I will share anything that I've got to tell you. I'll tell you. If you want to ask a question, I'll answer it. I get so many messages every day on Instagram, on email, on Facebook, and I will answer every single one of them. And if I don't answer one, it's because I've missed it and I haven't seen it. But I will answer every single question that anybody asks me. And I see that as part of my job now. I see that as part of, what I do and helping people. So, it's so important to find out who you actually are. So, really, really finding out who you are and how you can post and be unique. That's what's going to really help get your followings on your page. That and obviously, good content. Always with your pieces, if you've just started drawing or you're thinking of going full time, always think about your development. Always think about how you can develop your skills, because that's really important. It's all very well running a business and, you know, creating your portraits and everything like that, but you kind of need that bit of space for development as well. That's always been something really, really important for me, is doing that, you know, continual professional development. That's always been important for me in whatever I'm doing. You know, I always want to be learning something new, or you know, developing, or anything like that is really, really important. So make sure you put some time aside for that type of thing as well, so that you can develop as an artist. And then the other thing that I did, well, we all do, don't we? We all follow our favourite artists. And I asked a lot of questions of my favourite artists. I went on workshops, you know, to learn different techniques. It's always good to learn a different technique, you know, if it's a different medium or something like that, or a different way that somebody works. I think it's always a good idea. Plus you meet sort of like-minded people, you meet other artists, that type of stuff. So I would say, you know, whichever artist you follow, ask them questions. Hopefully they'll answer. Some won't, you know, and it's not because they're being rude. Well, I hope it's not because they're being rude. I don't think it's because they're being rude. The majority of the time it's because they're just too busy. They'll probably miss your question, you know, or they get so many questions that it's impossible to get through. But, you know, it's worth contacting your favourite artist and asking them questions, asking for a bit of help. Hopefully they will give it to you. They might just sort of send you to look at a video or something like that, and that's fair enough, because, you know, we're all busy, you know, and if the answers are in a video, well then perfect. You know, I tend to just answer questions, but then that's me, because I like chatting. You know, so go and follow your favourite artists, ask the questions. If you can get onto workshops with, it's a bit difficult at the moment because obviously we're all in lockdown, but, you know, if you can get onto workshops with your favourite artists, that's really worth doing as well, because you get to see things firsthand. Hopefully you get to kind of ask questions, all of that type of stuff. You know, and it's just really nice to chat to people and to meet people. And the other thing as well is, you know, don't forget, you know, I mean, when I first started drawing and I was following all of these different artists, and I still get a little bit starstruck now when they comment on my work. I'm like, oh my God. But don't forget that, you know, everyone you're following, they're a person. They're just like you. They're sitting at home or in their studio or whatever. You know, they've got their issues, their problems, their, you know, successes and all of that type of stuff, but they're just normal people. And you know, just contact them and ask them questions. I love it when people ask me questions. I love it when people contact me. You know, it makes me feel all special. But I'm just an ordinary person. You know, I'm a single mum. I've got 2 crazy dogs, 3 children. You know, I've got a mortgage that I need to pay. You know, I work hard. I try to be kind to people. You know, well, I don't try. I am kind to people. You know, I'm just a normal person. So, you know, don't be worried about contacting other artists and asking them questions, because they're all just normal people like you. And then I would say, you know, just go for it. Just go for it. You know, there's no time like the present. I mean, at the moment we're going through a very, very strange moment in time. Very strange. I don't think anybody really knows, you know, what's happening or what's going to happen. But let's take advantage. Let's take advantage of this time that we've all got. You know, if you're stuck at home, you know, do some videos, do some drawing, get a plan made out. You know, really, really take advantage. And this is one of the things that I do, and I think I'm quite good at doing, is, you know, taking a situation that's not particularly brilliant and flipping it and making something good out of it. You know, I like to be happy. I like to be content. You know, I don't like to feel anxious or stressed or anything like that. And I know it's not something that I can kind of switch on and switch off, but having done all of my coaching qualifications and everything like that, I have managed to find some strategies that if I do feel, you know, a little bit stressed or whatever, I can kind of bring myself down from it. You know, so take this moment in time with all of this oddness, and, you know, make a plan and do something. You know, and if you want some help, you are very welcome to contact me. Like I say, you know, I will help you in any way. I mean, I jump onto Skype calls nearly every day. People who, you know, I don't know, they've just contacted me and said, please, will you help? I'm there. Yep. What's your Skype? Let's have a quick chat. Because I'm here and I want to help. You know, and it's part of what I do. So, you know, don't ever feel scared about contacting people, because what's the worst can happen? They can either ignore you or say no, you know, and that's that. So, if you are out there and you are getting really old like me, I can't believe I'm 50 this year. It's crazy. I'm still 17 in my head. But I just thought I'd have a chat and talk to you from a perspective of an artist who has come to things quite late in life, you know, and who is very ordinary, who has, you know, actually got a face for radio, you know, middle-aged, bit chubby, all on my own. Crying dogs next to me. You know, if you can relate to that, then, you know, hopefully this has been useful. Maybe it's just been me just gabbling on talking about a load of rubbish, but hopefully it's been a little bit useful for you. Do get in touch if you've got anything specific you want me to talk about, and then I can maybe do a video on that. You know, give me a follow on Instagram. I've got loads of stuff on Instagram. You know, if you want help with your drawing, you know, I've got my Patreon channel, which is continuing to grow. It's a fabulous place to be. There's some amazing artists on there. It's not just me, it's a whole brilliant community. So if you fancied joining me on Patreon, then I'd love to see you on there. You know, or just get in touch, and, you know, if you've got any questions or anything, I'd love to hear from you. I know there are going to be people who listen to this video and think I'm a crazy old bat or whatever, I don't know. You know, and do you know what? You're probably right. I think I probably am a crazy old bat. But, you know, everything that I do and everything that I say comes from a place of kindness, and I just want to help people. And if I can help you, then, you know, then I will. So all I have to say is, at this point in time, which is I don't even know what date it is. What date is it? I think nobody knows what day or date it is. It's the 4th of April. We've been on lockdown for nearly 2 weeks, I think. 4th of April 2020. You know, so if you want any help or anything like that, you know, please do get in touch. And hopefully this has been a little bit helpful, I hope. Yeah, so stay safe, stay at home, you know, and draw. Do lots of drawing. And I will speak to you soon.